Pump it up, kitty. Just pump it up, kitty cat. Where you at? There you go. Put two paws on the floor, two in the air, and then just go. Kitty go, kitty go, kitty go. And just ride, kitty ride, kitty ride, kitty roll.
Scene. One of the most iconic, vibrant, and chaotic subcultures of the 2000s. Neon hair, studded belts, and band shirts. It wasn't just a look, it was a way of expression. It was a community for those who felt like they didn't have one. For a lot of people, scene was everything. Scene was life. And even after its mainstream decline, it was even revived. Well, kind of. Not really. Was it? Nah. Huh? But behind the quirky and colorful exterior of scene lurked a much darker and disturbing side. But before we get into any of that, what even was scene? And where did it come from? In a world where a lot of kids face bullying, come from troubled or dark places, or have little to no friends at all, scene gave them a place that they could feel like they belong. And at its core, scene was all about being free and expressing who you truly are. Individuality was a big thing in scene, and it resonated with those who felt lost with their identities. In a nutshell, scene is a vibrant subculture that started out in the early 2000s, and it came from a blend of emo and punk. And a lot of what makes scene, well, scene is the fashion and of course, the music. Scene was loud, scene was fun. It was just supposed to be a place where you could be you. And this was reflected heavily by the fashion and the music. Scene fashion was usually characterized by bright colors, skinny jeans, piercings, asymmetric haircuts with long bangs, raccoon hair extensions, eyeliner, hair bows, hair dye, and etc, etc. As for the music that was connected to the scene subculture, it ranges from a variety of different genres, such as metalcore, crunkcore, which I'll explain more about later, and electronic music. Some scene artists include All Time Low, Curve, The Millionaires, Black Veil Brides, and Searle. These are just a handful of the many artists that encapsulated the scene subculture, but they're all very prominent, and I'll probably be mentioning them later on. A lot of the pop culture associated with scene are things like Domo, Invader Zim, Pokemon, Gloomy Bear, and Zombie Hotel, with much more of course. Platforms like MySpace and YouTube played a pivotal role in the rise of scene culture, since it provided a space for individuals to connect, share music, and showcase their style through profiles. MySpace especially, since you were able to fully customize your page with graphics and music. A lot of scene girls gained popularity through this and were known as scene queens. Scene queens were known to go to many concerts, party very often, and just be heavily involved in the scene. Although the term scene queen originated as a derogatory label for those who cared more about their looks than the actual music. They were seen as bimbos and slutty, and were usually accused of just trying to hook up with band guys. But over time, they started embracing these labels, essentially flipping the script and reclaiming it. A really big example of this was none other than the Millionaires. Alright, that's enough. I don't want to get copyrighted. They were icons in the scene, and a majority of their music was all about partying, getting money, doing drugs, having sex, and all that fun stuff that was consistent with a lot of the music in the scene. Their music had heavy influences of crunkcore, which is another prominent genre of music I'll explain a bit right now. Crunkcore, or crunk punk, or screamo crunk, or skrunk, was a genre that fused together elements of hip-hop, screamo, dance, pop, and electronic music. Crunkcore is characterized by its hip-hop beats, screamed vocals, autotune, and lyrics that usually revolve around partying and sex. A lot of sex. Lots and lots and lots of sex. It gained controversies because of this, but it still resonated with a lot of scene kids due to its high energy sound and its chaotic and rebellious nature. Crunkcore's sound, visual appeal, and the communal experiences it offered made it a natural fit for scene kids seeking a distinctive and expressive cultural identity. After MySpace, a lot of scene kids started creating channels on YouTube, where they would share tutorials for how to do their hair and makeup. They would also make personal vlogs or just make vlogs with their friends. And a lot of these creators would again gain a massive and loyal following. However, as nice and good as this all seemed, like with most things on the internet, there was a darker, much darker undertone. Which brings us to the next part of this video.
Okay, you guys, this is Jesse's sweater, and
You
I
know
just
what?
wanted to say that you guys have ruined my life.
Hunter Moore is the man who created the revenge porn website Is Anyone Up, and recently he got arrested by the FBI.
You're a pathetic little cunt.
So I'm looking up Kiki Kannibal, and you know, she's probably like, wow, she's all over the motherfucking internet. And what I've read from her, there's so many different opinions about her. It's like, oh my god.
I want to talk about Dahvie Vanity. He's a sack of shit, this pedophile, pretty much scum of the earth.
And we're gonna have sex.
So, before we continue, I wanted to give a viewer discretion. This next part of the video is extremely fucked up, and I'm going to mention the following topics you see on the screen. So, if you feel like you can't handle this or you're just uncomfortable, now is the time to click off. Or you could just go to this part of the video. Still here? Alright, let's continue. As scene grew, gatekeeping others became more and more prevalent. If you didn't dress scene enough, you would be labeled a poser, which went against what scene was all about in the first place. Other underlying issues also started to surface as well, revealing a very depraved side of scene. Since appearance was a big aspect of scene, it had a focus on thinness, which led to pro-anxiety sentiments amongst certain individuals within the scene community. Some within the community were very toxic to bigger people.
I am fat and C. So many people have picked on me for this. It destroys a person, and I try not to let it get to me, but sometimes it does.
And promoted things like purging and a very unhealthy diet. If by any chance you don't know what purging is, purging refers to the act of expelling food from the body after eating, typically through self-induced vomiting or misuse of laxatives, in an attempt to avoid weight gain. It is a very sad and very real thing that people have to go through, and the fact that it was so promoted throughout scene is just terrible. While doing research for this, I stumbled across a website that just made me sick, and I know I already gave a warning, but let me give another one, because this website is not for the faint of heart. This part of the video isn't even scripted. This is just going to be me going over this website and showing you the terrible things that it promotes. They encourage you to fast and give you unmanageable diets that, quite frankly, no one should be doing. This is the part of the website that really got to me. Essentially, it gives you 101 tips in order to stay as skinny as you possibly can. And a lot of these are just sickening. I don't even feel comfortable showing these, but I'll read out a select few. Tip number 43. Don't swallow, chew, and spit. Tip number 32. Look at supermodels. Do they look like they eat? No. So if you really want to look like them, don't eat. Tip number 25. Pinch all of your fat if you want to eat, and see how disgusting it is. And then you'll think that if you eat, you'll just add more to it, and you don't want that. Tip 18. Eat in front of the mirror. Hell, eat in front of the mirror naked, and see how much you want to eat then. As someone who has struggled with eating disorders in the past, I just want to say I sympathize with anybody going through this. And if you're personally going through this, there are many hotlines that help with this. Please reach out and seek help. And with that, we can move on to the next part of the video. Now, under the surface of scene, there was a lot of misconduct involving children. To give an example of this, I first want to tell you a bit about Kiki Kannibal. So, who is Kiki Kannibal? Kiki Kannibal was one of the before mentioned scene queens, and she was one of the earliest ones who was super influential on MySpace and on Stickam, and she pioneered a lot of what scene is known for today. So, this story takes place in Florida, my home state, and it all begins with 14-year-old Kirsten Ostrenga. In 2005, Kirsten moved with her family to Coral Springs, but unfortunately, she found it very hard to fit in with the other kids in her school. But over time, she embraced her status as an outsider and began to experiment with hair dye, listening to emo and punk bands, and became somewhat of a proto-scene queen. And when she was 14, she adopted the name Kiki Kannibal. Also, before we get into all the serious shit, I just want to mention, I'm getting this information by an article written by Kyle whatever, and he just keeps shitting on her hair for some reason, and it's kind of pissing me off. Like, dude, you're 40. Why are you dragging on a little girl's hair so much? Like, she was unique, bruh. You look like the rest of them. Like, seriously, all over this article, all you see is bad haircut, shitty haircut. Look at her bad hair. That shit was fire as fuck. You look like a pleb. You look like you have a lot on your mind. Hey, honey, how was work? Ah, boy. My son and my daughter don't talk to me. Ah, boy. Now you see me? Now you still see me with that big ass. Sorry, that was really inappropriate, but seriously, like, come on. You couldn't save that for another article where you're not writing about a girl who is literally a victim? Anyways, like I said, at 14, she officially became Kiki Kannibal. And after still feeling lonely at school, she turned to MySpace for friends. Her unique style and appearance gained her notoriety and fame, something that Kyle would know nothing about. And then she became somewhat of a celebrity on MySpace. Sadly, like with most fame, it also came with a lot of online harassment and bullying. Her home address was posted online, and kids began to harass her in real life as well. Gum was stuck to her hair, and once, a group of guys bothered her into taking a photo with them, in which they then punched her, and someone even spray painted the word slut onto her family's garage door. Eventually, she met a boy named Daniel de Jesus Cespedes. Daniel came from a broken home, and had a little fame on MySpace. He was known as Mr. MySpace. He told Kiki that he was 17, even though he was actually 18. And shortly after, they began dating. Daniel's parents hated the fact that he would come home with dyed hair and eyeliner, calling him slurs, and even calling Kiki's parents to complain. One time, Danny's parents told Kiki's parents that, and I quote, "You and your daughter, you ain't gonna be around no more." Yikes. One night, Daniel began to pressure Kiki into having sex against her will. And sadly, this abuse continued until Kiki finally broke it off and told her mom about it. The police decided to finally take action, but Daniel had already moved to North Carolina with his family. That's when the police discovered that this wasn't Daniel's first time doing this either, as he had a history of pressuring young girls into sex after meeting them, some even as young as 12. Eventually, Cespedes returned to Florida several months later, and Kiki learned that he was now with another 14-year-old. The police then began to search for him again when they eventually found him at a mall called Aventura Mall, which I've been to before, which is just crazy. When they found him, he was surrounded by underage girls and had an alarm in his backpack and in his shoe. They finally arrested him at the parking lot, but then a gust of wind blew a piece of paper that Daniel was holding at the time. So the police for some reason decided to uncuff him so that he could get the paper again. And then that's when Daniel decided to make a run for it, and he tried to jump from the top of the parking lot onto a moving van below. But his foot got caught onto a railing, and ultimately he fell straight into the pavement. After this, he spent 2 months in a coma, until Daniel de Jesus Cespedes eventually died. People on the internet, being, people on the internet, blamed Kiki for his death, and the constant harassment, both online and in person, just kept getting worse. Her home then eventually fell into foreclosure, and Kiki eventually was forced to fade into obscurity. Now, she's still active online to this day, and she seems to be doing good. But this story is very tragic, and no one should have to go through anything like that. Alright, on to the next piece of shit. So, the piece of shit in question is named Hunter Moore, who sadly preyed upon a lot of scene kids. During the 2010s, Moore made a website named isanyoneup.com. This website was entirely dedicated to revenge porn. He would host explicit images and videos, which were more often than not uploaded without any consent. A lot of the people he posted were scene musicians and fans of those same musicians. The site became a home for degenerates to share images of women and ruin a lot of their lives as well. For the month of November 2011, the website's revenue was $13,000. Its server fees were $8,000, and its page views were over 30 million. Hunter Moore prided himself on being a quote-unquote professional life ruiner and showed no empathy toward anybody he might have affected with his website. He was once quoted with saying,
"People threaten me with lawsuits every day, which is funny, because it fuels the site. The people that get mad hate my site and want to take it down. They send me all this crazy stuff, but at the same time, they're just building content for my site, which just makes me more popular."
Shut up. Because of his constant bragging and the nature of his website, BBC News named Moore the net's most hated man, and Rolling Stone called him the most hated man on the internet. Understandably so. Moore eventually faced numerous lawsuits and an FBI investigation. On April 19th of 2012, Moore sold the website to an anti-bullying group run by James McGibney for $12,000. After it was sold, all the pornographic material was removed, and the URL was redirected to bullyville.com. And finally, on December 2nd of 2015, Moore was sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release, which, if you ask me, is letting him off easy. Now, let's just go over the bullyville.com website really quick, just to get a better insight into everything. When on the website, you could find a section called Is Anyone Up? And by clicking this, you could find the message to Hunter Moore by James McGibney. It begins with a quote by Hunter Moore. "I've fucked most of the girls here," says Moore, extending his heavily tattooed arm towards the pack.
"All of these girls are literally 17 years old,"
he says, chuckling.
"I might go to jail tonight."
James then begins to address Hunter directly, and I'm going to read his entire message now, so bear with me.
"Hello, Hunter. It's been nearly 10 years since I took over and shut down your despicable revenge porn site, www.isanyoneup.com. Sometimes you need to be a bully to beat a bully, and I'm the first to admit that I intellectually bullied the ever-loving shit out of you. Your main stated objective was to ruin young girls' lives, even after they've indicated that they were going to commit suicide if their unauthorized naked images weren't removed from your website. You laughed in their faces. Are you still laughing now? You tried to destroy their lives, but instead, I intellectually destroyed yours. You received a masterclass in the fine art of social engineering. It was shocking that you were only sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison for your plethora of crimes. That wasn't nearly enough time for what you did to those girls. Just remember, Hunter, revenge is never pretty. But when it's done meticulously, intelligently, and psychotically, it sure is a thing of beauty. Now, where is that $385,000 that you owe me from that judgment out in Las Vegas? Our ruthless attorney, Mark Randazza, sure did quite the legal enema on your ass. I still plan on donating every single penny I receive from that judgment toward battered women's shelters throughout the United States. Remember when you were arrested, again, for headbutting a woman in New York? You are the very definition of a coward. Word on the street is that you were thinking about launching another revenge site called anyoneup.com. I heard some alleged psychopath swooped right in and intellectually bullied the shit out of you again. I don't know about you. However, I'm really looking forward to seeing what www.anyoneup.com becomes. But the site that really caught my attention, Hunter, was www.isanyoneup.com. You really had big plans for that site. I heard that whoever owns www.isanyoneup.com was not happy when you threatened to rape his wife while his children watched. It's simply amazing how well-known publications kept referring to isanyoneup.com as isanyoneup.com.
And then he lists some articles, and then he continues.
I laughed out loud when Netflix referenced your failed relaunch of www.isanyoneup2.com. That was a rough day, huh? Guess who owns that site, Hunter? Despite all your rage, you are still just a rat in my cage.
Can we get a round of applause for this? What a W. That's good, right? That he got brought to justice? Are you happy? Well, stop being happy. Because this next person that I'm going to talk about is one of the most vile human beings in the world. Now, during the prime of scene, there was a band amongst all the other bands called Blood on the Dance Floor. Oh! Now, for some of you, I know you went into fight or flight mode immediately. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Blood on the Dance Floor was an American music group from Orlando, Florida, formed in 2006. Why is it always Florida? Now, Blood on the Dance Floor as a band was already very controversial for their overly provocative and untasteful lyrics. A lot of them were misogynistic in the way that they talked about women, and their lyrics were overly edgy and annoying as they were mostly about killing people and having sex in all the worst ways, or just excusing their terrible actions. Some examples of their lyrics were just woke up and Taylor Swift's pissing in my mouth. Fuck so many boys, I'm having a drought. I'm on a chat with your father, Facebooking with your brother, 2 fingers in my mouth, 2 fingers in your mother's. Okay. I am the freak of the nation. Here's a bag of dicks. No one gives a shit. Go and run your mouth. Take a knife to your bro. I'm unchained. Insane. In the membrane. I'm on top of the motherfucking food chain. Corny. But all of this makes a lot more sense when you see the man behind the lyrics. Jesus David Torres, also known as Dahvie Vanity. Now, to summarize Dahvie Vanity, basically, he's the worst of the worst. Scum. The gum under a shoe. Shit smeared on the road. That is Dahvie Vanity. Let me set the stage for who this man really is. Now, this is a real story, and in my opinion is worse than anything we've ever covered. So, just another warning. In 2007, a radio show host, Dawson McAllister, was taking in calls from people who needed someone to talk to, or just needed advice. One Sunday night in June, he received a call from a 14-year-old girl named Diana Farrell. McAllister could sense that something was very wrong, and when he asked her what it was, she responded through shaky breath. She told him about the man who had sexually assaulted her 8 days ago. A show staffer called the police, and when they arrived to question her, she was very hesitant to reveal any information. Eventually, after some questioning, she revealed that she didn't know his name or his age, only that he went by Dahvie. She met him on MySpace a while ago, and Dahvie had told her that he wanted to give her a new look and dye her hair for her. He drove across the state to see her, and while Diana's mom was away at work, Dahvie had shown up and raped her. Later that same year, he started a band that would now be known as Blood on the Dance Floor, and since then, at least 21 women have made sexual assault, child abuse, and allegations against Vanity, with some of them being as young as 11 years old. And this man is still roaming around free till this day. What the fuck are we doing? Other terrible things that Dahvie has done include, but are not limited to, requesting bras from underage fans.
Give me your bras right now. Give it to me. Give me all your bras. I want them all. Give me your bras right now.
and on occasions even mooning them. He was abusive to his fellow bandmates, like J. Vaughn Monroe, which came out revealing that Vanity had forced him to tour without his HIV medication, which caused him to nearly develop AIDS. And finally, the case of Jesse Slaughter. So, back in the day, there was a site called Sticky Drama that acted as a sort of gossip page. Someone on Sticky Drama wrote a post claiming that 10-year-old Jesse Slaughter had hooked up with Dahvie Vanity. She made a video denying all these claims, and this resulted in waves of Blood on the Dance Floor fans to come out and start harassing and straight up bullying Jesse. It got so bad that users of 4chan then found and distributed her real name, her phone number, and her address. After the harassment became too much, Jesse uploaded a video in which she can be seen pleading and crying. In the middle of the video, her father shows up and starts yelling angrily at the camera and says a line that would then become a huge meme during that era.
And who said you're gonna beat my daughter up? You will have to deal with the police, cause you done goofed, you done goofed, you done.
So, how does Dahvie Vanity respond?
That's what! I have nothing nice to say about my daughter! Don't say I'm recording this! I report you to the cyber police! And the state police! And whoever will beat my daughter, you will have to deal with the police! You're done goofed! You're done goofed!
On top of making fun of this 11-year-old girl, he also believed it would be a genius and hilarious idea if he made what is essentially a diss track towards her. The track is titled after the quote, "You done goofed." So, Dahvie ended up using her torment as a joke and essentially just screaming and poking fun at Jesse, who is now Damien Lionheart. And at the time, all of Dahvie's fans defended this, and they continued to bully her relentlessly. And its lyrics are just so pathetic, just like he is. Okay, I have to read these lyrics to you now, so. Look at me, I'm beautiful, not a suspect of. Regardless of what you've read, I've got no crime to commit. Your fiction trash talking, it's done. This guy is 40 years old and has yet to face any legal consequences. What are we doing? So, with all these cracks in the scene culture and the eventual death of MySpace, the scene slowly started to die out and people started to move on. Or did they? Notice how I put quotations over revival? I'll explain that later. Now, more than ever, trends from the past are starting to resurface. This happened initially with the Y2K movement, and in the same vein, with scene. Platforms like TikTok played a huge role in reigniting interest in scene culture. Users shared nostalgic content, including fashion and music associated with the subculture, leading to a renewed appreciation amongst the younger audiences. The real traction of scene's revival started in 2019 with a movement called #29scene, and it started getting really popular on TikTok. Everybody was showing a lot of appreciation for the subculture and even carried this over into 2020 with another hashtag, the #roaring20s. If you don't know, roar means I love you in dinosaur. This revival of scene is now referred to as scenecore. Now, the thing about this revival is that it's not exactly the same thing as scene as we once knew it, and is actually hated by a lot of the people that were actively in the original scene. As I mentioned before, the heart of original scene culture was characterized by its unique fashion, music, and community. On the other hand, scenecore is often viewed more as a superficial version of that honestly lacked depth and didn't offer the same community that the original scene did. Some even view scenecore as a diluted or watered down version of the authentic scene experience. Scenecore and certain scenecore music and imagery also romanticize self-harm and eating this. This portrayal can be unsettling for those who actually experience these issues firsthand, and it just makes them feel like their actual issues are being trivialized or, in some cases, fetishized. Overall, people feel that scenecore misrepresents the original scene culture by focusing more on aesthetic elements than on any of the actual music or community aspects that were the core of scene. Get it? The core of scene?
Get it? The core of scene? the core of scene? The core of scene?
Original scene music was full of all different kinds of genres, while scenecore's music is mostly just diluted down to just hyperpop. A lot of these songs were over the top and featured disgusting lyrics that again trivialized the very real issues in scene, while doing it with absolutely zero subtlety. Some songs that highlight this are Puke Your Guts, Be My Bad Bitch, Pretty Little Scene Slut, Little, okay. I can keep going, but I won't. Sometimes the instrumentals that these songs use were just completely stolen at times. Not sampled, just stolen, and it fed more into nostalgia than anything with any real substance, basically. Scene's fashion was originally all about being unique, being authentic, and ultimately just being yourself, while scenecore's modern take on this washed out most of the do-it-yourself aspect. A lot of the visual appeal was essentially just flanderized to just be like this throw-up of rainbow and candy bracelets which have no real character to it. It's just trying too hard to be something that it's really not. But that's just my take on it. Am I a hater, guys? Am I just hating? Am I the problem? Now, I'm not gonna say that all of scenecore is bad, because I am a fan of scene, apart from all the bad shit I mentioned. A lot of the music, art, and fashion does resonate with me, so I'm glad to see it return. Even if it's a lot different, I think it's a step towards letting kids nowadays express themselves and have a subculture reminiscent of what scene was. Just be yourself, guys. Alright, now the conclusion of this video. Conclusion? Just stop watching the video! I'm just kidding. So, we reached the end of the video, and this one was really heavy, so, you know, I tried to lighten it up when it was appropriate. And I know I'll have to censor a lot of what I spoke about, but I hope you guys, you know, could understand what I was talking about. All in all, what do you guys think about scene and scenecore? I had a lot of emotions making this video, but ultimately, I do like talking about these subcultures that interest me a lot. Let me know anything I might have gotten wrong because, you know, I am human and I do make mistakes. If you guys have any other subculture, nostalgic thing, or just anything at all that you'd like me to cover, make sure you just let me know down below in the comments. And I promise the next one will be a lot lighter than this video, I think. My friend Yony and I released a channel where we just go over horror content called Night Terrors, which I'll link down below. I'll also link below all my sources and all the YouTubers that did help a lot with the research of this video. I wanted to give a shout out to Maya Malice, Johnny Gilbert, Salad Days, and Sersha. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, you guys are great. You guys are actually very entertaining channels, and you know, I had a lot of my god. Oh, sorry, I aged rapidly. Yeah, I had a lot of fun watching your guys' channels. I think you guys make great content, and you know, keep making content. You guys are great. I love it. Keep it up. So yeah, that's the end of this video. I love you guys. Bye. Wait! Guys, I was looking at my channel. I'm almost at 500 subs. I just want to thank you guys so much. 500 subs! Oh my god! No, but this is crazy because I never expected the amount of love that I got on my last video. I've never seen more than 1,000 views ever since I was little, and it's just surreal. So thank you guys so much for the love, and now I will leave.